Hello YouTube, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing another Penthouse Comics review. Today we're going to be looking at issue 2, which is the April and May 2024 issue. And well, on one hand, there's significant improvements here from last time, and on the other hand, the stories are still kind of concerning to me in the sense that I'm not sure that they fit what this is supposed to be, right? So I will talk about that here in a moment, but first, let's look at some general kind of situations here with this. So in general, I feel like this cardstock is better than last time, and I'm not actually sure that that's true or not. That was the impression I got, and that is kind of what I remember from last time. I feel like last time was pretty floppy. In this case, if you cup it a little bit, it still maintains its shape. If you don't cup it at all, it kind of falls over, but it doesn't feel as flimsy as last time. So that's a good improvement there. Let me raise this a little bit. And we get some information here. So I Spit on Your Grave continues. Miss October concludes its first issue, basically because Miss October is a French series. The issues that they release in are quite long, and they split them in two for this series. Now, is that good or is that bad? I'm not really sure. I don't think it matters too much as long as the stopping points are good. And this is interesting that they include this. So they're going to have a new story next issue, or they might actually just keep the 4 that they have right now with this conclusion, right? Because this issue has 5 stories. We have The Dead All Have the Same Skin debuting, and then the rest of the stories from last time, which were The Dream and Gun Crazy continue. And then Maleficent is the lady that has her pictures in the book. And her pictures are taken by Paranoid Android. And well, I don't hate them. I think I like them better than last time, but I still have a big glaring issue with them, and it's not the same one as last time. So we'll talk about that in a moment, right? So yeah, did I mention this already? So this still happens here, which is annoying. The cover page or this material doesn't cover all the way to the end of the book. That's kind of annoying. I don't really know if this is supposed to be a bug or a feature. I think it's a bug, and it bothers me. It annoys me. In terms of the cover, though, I like this picture. You know, like at a glance, if you look at it kind of far away, it looks great. If you kind of bring it a bit closer, there's some elements that are quite nice, right? So I like this tattoo and this kind of like softness to that tattoo there. I think it looks nice. And I like this detail here where her skin kind of changes because of the pressure that her outfit is putting on her body, right? So I like that. I think that that's a nice detail. However, I'm not sure that I like the styling of this. I don't think that the way that the rendering looks is good. Well, I don't necessarily think it's bad, but it has this like AI vibe to it, right? Which I'm not trying to be insulting to the artist, but it does kind of have that style, or it has kind of that look that reminds me of AI stuff. And well, at this point, that kind of makes it seem worse than it is, right? So yeah, I like the texturing on their hair, but you know, this image is not necessarily my favorite. However, I think it is probably the best one that was available for this month, right? So it is what it is. Let's actually look at the inside here. So here's this little paragraph here that kind of just thanks the readers, kind of talks about what's coming here in the future, and you know, just says thanks, right? They also lampshade a little bit about the issue with the typos, and they do so again at the end of the book, so be aware of that in the letters page. And it's not bad. I think it's kind of funny, but it is clearly like, oh yeah, we really fucked up, and we don't really have an excuse for it, so we'll just kind of make a joke about it. And I mean, that's not horrible. That's not a horrible way to deal with it. So yeah, but maybe a sorry would be better, right? So okay, and here's the contents page. So we have the new story to start the issue, that they all have the same skin, part 1. This one is fine. I don't necessarily have problems with it, but there's kind of one glaring thing, one detail that I noticed that kind of goes into some of these other ones that's kind of odd, because I'm not sure that this is the right place to talk about those things, right? So yeah, then I Spit on Your Grave, and I think that this it's good that this is placed here, because I do think that Spit on Your Grave is probably the best story in terms of like the content and what's going on and how it fits into the theme of Penthouse Comics. So I like that they put that one, you know, right after the thing that they want to highlight, right? So more or less you can say that this is the number one spot and this is just there because it's a special case, right? Miss October is still enjoyable, but the art style, although it's good, is a bit confusing to me because all of the male characters look pretty similar and I can't really differentiate them. So I'm never aware which character is talking and which character I'm supposed to, you know, be happy with and upset with based on how they're interacting with the female characters, right? So yeah, The Dream is actually my favorite story. I think Gilliam March's artwork works really nicely, and Jean Defoe has good storytelling ability, right? Gun Crazy is bad. I don't like it. I like the art style, but I don't understand why it's here at all. And I want to mention that in the letters page, most of the letters that they include are actually talking positively about Gun Crazy. So there's kind of a little bit of a of a psyop situation going on there to try to get people to like it by sharing the opinion of other people, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't like the story, and I don't necessarily appreciate that from the letters page either. But I mean, it's understandable that they would do something like that, right? So yeah, and then Fuck, Marry, Kill. That's the photography that goes into this issue, right? So yeah, and then this is basically the only article that they have. It's called Next, and it's basically what's coming in the future. And it's good, but it was a bit confusing because I don't understand, you know, if it means that they're going to be published the same way this is, you know, at comic book stores, you have to pre-order it and you have to make sure that your comic book store gets it for you, or if it's going to be sold at retailers and it's going to be like a proper trade paperback type book. And that's not great, right? So that's kind of unclear there, and that's not good. So yeah, here's the Dead all have the same skin. I like this coloring here. I think that looks great. The artwork is fine. It's a bit old school, and that's not necessarily, you know, something I like, but I don't exactly hate it, right? So yeah, so and this one basically we have this bouncer story, right? And to me it felt kind of weird. And one of the important things about this is that this character is a second generation quarter black guy, right? So somehow that's really important to him. And I think it's because of the setting. This is like early 19th century, right? So being black is a problem, or it's seen as something negative. But I don't get why this is so important and how this is relevant to Penthouse comics, right? Like, this is supposed to be about cool stories that are sexy and fun and interesting, not necessarily about these like internal identity politics issues that these characters might be facing. Now, the problem I think is mostly because since you're only getting a little snippet of the story, it doesn't really become relevant. It's just this kind of weird, annoying fact that keeps getting repeated to you over and over again, right? And also, I had to double check. It's like, this guy is supposed to be, like, one of his grandparents is black, and so he now passes off as white because he's had more white, paternal and maternal lineage than black. And I looked it up, and apparently this is actually true. If you have one black grandparent and 3 white, grandparent and 2 white parents, or if you're basically a quarter black, you're more likely to look white than not, right? So that's interesting. That's something cool I learned, right? Or some, an interesting little fact that I learned. But it's just weird that it is mentioned so much. And it's also especially weird because the next story here, I Spit on Your Grave, also starts by mentioning that fact and saying that it's important that this guy is also a quarter black or something, and he has like a dead brother who was also black. I actually like this story quite a bit more. It makes a lot more sense. The identity politics aspect is a background detail that is important to the character's motivation, but not so in your face as in the first story, which is not bad. I like these summaries, which is nice because it allows you to pick up a story whenever without having to actually read the whole thing. This does a good job at summarizing this, so that's good. And I like the artwork here a lot. I also really like the story here. In this case, it was quite enjoyable. This is probably my favorite story in this book, right? So, yeah. And then we transition over to the next story here, Miss October, and this is one of the ads that we get in this page, which is nice. This is not bad. I like that. Miss October here, we get another, introduction page, and then we get into the story here. And like I said, the story isn't bad. I actually like it. I think the art style is also quite nice. But I really can't tell the male characters apart, like to a degree that's actually kind of concerning to me, because I'm like, I don't understand the flow of these stories and who's important and who's not, because a lot of the cop characters all look really similar to me. And that's bad. I don't know if it's me not being able to understand the differences in the nuance of these characters' faces, or if it's just like the artist isn't that good at making different male faces either, right? Because all of the female characters at least have like a different hairstyle or a different type of outfit. Most of the male characters are all dressed the same. They have the same hairstyle. They have the same hair color even. So it's really hard to tell them apart, right? So, yeah. And also, this is important here. Big fuck up right there. That is horrible. How did this pass through? Like, they fixed all of the other typo and, bubble text issues, right? They did a great job with that. But how the fuck do you do this? That is so bad. Holy crap. And then the dream. My second furry story here. This one is pretty enjoyable. There doesn't really seem to be any identity politics issues here. Or if there are, they're so minimal that they're pretty unnoticeable to me. And I like the story here. And it actually gets into a little bit of a, almost like, how do I call it? Like, magical realism, supernatural element here with this video that this guy is taking, right? Because there's this image behind him and this thing that he takes that like moves, and he doesn't know what the hell's going on. And if you combine it with the character that's introduced at the end of the story here, it seems quite interesting and crazy. And I really like the artwork here as well, right? So yeah, overall good stuff. And then Gun Crazy, I don't like this story. I don't understand it. I think that the parody elements here are kind of funny, but I don't want to read this and then have this sort of imagery. Like, this is annoying. Like, I don't want to, like, I agree with making fun of people like this, but I don't want to read this. And why do you do all of this storytelling and try to make this character, like, not necessarily humanized, but, like, understandable in some way? I don't like that. I think that this is a waste of paper. Like, this story should not exist at all. I don't know. I don't know why they made this and why it seems to be pushed so much, right? And then we finally get to, like, the Penthouse aspect of this story, or of this issue. And, well, I actually quite like the model. I think she's quite beautiful. I don't mind the touch-ups that they did to her. However, I dislike the amount of black compared to color that there is. Like, I don't like this sort of neon, like wannabe cyberpunk thing that they're going for here. It's kind of ugly looking, right? And it makes the actual model look less interesting because there's this fucking glaring thing that is taking away attention from them, right? So, I don't know. I think that they were trying to do something interesting and cool, and it doesn't work for me. It might work for other people, so I understand if you have a different opinion there, but for me, it's not great. However, the outfits that the model wears are quite nice, so I can't say too much badness. However, sometimes there are some issues where the model just kind of disappears. Like, it's like in this one specifically, like, she's barely there. I don't know. It doesn't work for me, so yeah. And then finally, the next thing. So this shows you how this series is going to look like. This is 88 pages, so this is a single issue. So I guess this is going to be published at comic book stores. And then this one doesn't tell you how many pages it is, so we don't know. And then these other three look quite interesting, actually. I do want to pick up all of them, all 5 of these stories. But, again, I just don't know where or how they're going to be released, and that's kind of annoying, right? So hopefully we get more information about that. And then the letter pages here. They lampshade the issue with the typos, and then they try to do this kind of like thing, trying to make Gun Crazy look better, but it doesn't work for me. This next issue is quite good. I really like it. I think that this cover looks great, and I think that this is a good use of this piece of paper here that's left over. It's nice that they did this instead of leaving it black or white or whatever the color is, but I would have liked to see a cover gallery. I think that they're missing certain aspects. Like, I don't think adding 1 or 2 more pages is going to cause any issues to their like pricing, right? And I really think that they should make some changes here to include the cover gallery, to make sure that the cover actually covers all of the pages properly, and maybe do a little bit better job with the images, with the photo shoots, right? I mean, so far, even though the models have been great, the photo shoots have not been that satisfying to me. So I'm kind of upset about that. Also, I don't have an issue with politics and media. I think that that's understandable and fair. However, when I read this type of comic book, I'm not looking for politics. I'm not looking for, these stories to tell me that the real world sucks, because I know that. What I want is sexy, interesting, cool storytelling and a good feel out of it, right? And I don't necessarily like this interest and this kind of almost social justice aspect that is going for here. I don't really understand it. I don't understand that what the point is. And some of it almost feels like the editing team wants to make this point and not necessarily and so they're pushing for this in a way that doesn't feel great, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how to express what I'm feeling about this correctly, right? Another thing is, I don't want to have to read this, magazine and constantly have noir, crime thriller, detective stories. I want variety and interesting stuff because, sexy, cool storytelling doesn't just mean noir detective stuff. You can have science fiction, you can have fantasy, you can have historical fiction, you can have all sorts of stuff. So I really hope that they move away from this initial quite safe detective thriller kind of vibe and move on to something a little bit more experimental, a little bit more interesting, right? I would love to see some paranormal stuff, like a paranormal romance type story would be interesting. I don't know if there's many comic books like that. Maybe something sports related, either racing or soccer would be interesting, right? Maybe a Western story or science fiction story, right? There's so many interesting artists from Europe, which is where they're getting most of this stuff, that are doing interesting sci-fi and fantasy and all sorts of stories that are not basic crime thriller type stories, that have those elements of sexuality and, stuff like that we kind of want from a Penthouse story, right? So, I don't know. I hope that they move away from this kind of basic stuff, right? And, I mean, that's partially why I like The Dream, right? Because it kind of does seem to go into this slightly supernatural, magical realism type vibe. So, I'm very much looking forward to seeing more about that. In general, I'm still liking this, and I still think that it's maybe not worth $10 this time. Maybe it's worth $8, but it's not entirely horrible. I'm still having fun with it. I'm still liking it. I'm still enjoying this, and I do want to have at least a year's worth of collection for this series, right? I do want to have all 6 issues that they're going to release this year, but I'm not sure that I'm going to want to continue after that. And I do hope that they eventually, the stories that they're releasing here, they release separately in a complete edition volume, or a proper comic that is only those stories, right? I don't want them to be relegated to always being in these magazine compendiums, right? Or anthologies or whatever. I hope that they eventually do release Miss October as its own set of books, and that they release The Dream as its own book, and that they release all of the other ones, except Gun Crazy. I don't like that one at all. As their own separate books that you can buy if you only want that story, right? Because if I were to reread any of these stories, it'd be really fucking annoying to have to pull out my whole stack of Penthouse comics and have to flip through them to just find the section of the story that I want, right? So, yeah, those are my thoughts here. Hopefully this is a little bit more structured than last time. I honestly can't remember how I did it last time, so hopefully it's not too bad. I didn't ramble too much. And if you have any differing opinions or anything like that, please comment down below. I am interested to know. I mean, I might disagree with you, right? So we can have a civil discussion about that stuff. But I do want to know what other people are thinking, right? So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know what you thought down below. And thank you guys once again. See you guys later.